Chapter 5, Nervous System. Neural controls maintain life. Drugs like ecstasy flood the brain with signal molecules and saturate receptors, disrupting these controls. Evolution of nervous systems. Interacting neurons allow animals to respond to stimuli in the environment and inside the body. Neuron is a cell that can relay electrical signals along plasma membrane and can communicate with other cells by specific chemical messages. Neuroglia support neurons functionally and structurally. Three types of neurons. Sensory neurons detect stimuli and signal interneurons of motor neurons. Interneurons process information from sensory neurons and send signals to motor neurons. Motor neurons control muscles and glands. Cnidarians are the simplest animals that have neurons, which are arranged as nerve nets. Nerve nets, a mesh of interconnecting neurons with no centralized control organ or brain. Flatworms are the simplest animals with a bilateral cephalized nervous system. Cephalization is concentration of neurons that detect and process stimuli at the body's head end. Ganglion is a cluster of neuron cell bodies that functions as an integrating center. Nerve cords. Annelids and arthropods have paired ventral nerve cords that connect to a simple brain. Pair of ganglia in each segment for local control. Chordates have a single dorsal nerve cord. Vertebrates have brain in the anterior region of the nerve cord. The vertebrate nervous system, CNS and PNS. CNS contains of brain and spinal cord, which is mostly interneurons. Peripheral nervous system or PNS, which consists of nerve from the CNS to the rest of the body, which is called efferent, and from the body to CNS called afferent. Autonomic and somatic nerves control different organs of the body. This is the picture of the human nervous system. Neurons have special cytoplasmic extensions for receiving and sending messages. Dendrites receive information from other cells. Axons send chemical signals to other cells. Sensory neurons have an axon with one end that responds to stimuli. The others send signals. Interneurons and motor neurons have many dendrites and one axon. Membrane potentials. Resting membrane potential. The interior of the resting neuron is more negative than the fluid outside the cell, which is minus 70 mV. Negatively charged protein and active transport of sodium and potassium ions maintain the resting potential. Action potential is an abrupt reversal in the electric gradient across the plasma membrane. When properly simulated, voltage-gated channels open, ions flow through, and the membrane potential briefly reverses. Closer look at action potentials. An action potential begins simulation of a neuron's input zone causes a local gradient potential. When a stimulus in the neuron's trigger zone reaches reversal potential, gated sodium channels open, voltage differences decreases and start the action potential. Once threshold level is reached, membrane potential always rises to the same level as an action potential peak, which is all or nothing response. Direction of propagation. An action potential is self-propagating. Sodium ions diffuse to adjoining region of axon, triggering sodium gates one after another. An action potential can only move one way, towards action terminals. There will be a brief refractory period after sodium gates close. How neuron cell messages to other cells. An action potential travels along neuron's axon to the terminal at the tip. Terminal sends chemical signals to a neuron, muscle fiber, or gland cell through a synapse. Chemical synapses. Synapse is a region where an axon terminal presynaptic cell sends chemical signals to a neuron, muscle fiber, or gland cell, which is called the postsynaptic cell. Action potentials trigger release of signaling molecules, called neurotransmitters, from vesicles in the presynaptic terminal into synaptic cleft. Neurotransmitter action. Release of neurotransmitters from presynaptic vesicles requires an influx of calcium ions, Ca2+. Postsynaptic membrane receptors bind the neurotransmitter and initiate the response. Example, a neuromuscular junction and the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, ACH. Receiving the signal. A neurotransmitter may have excitatory or inhibitory effects on a postsynaptic cell. Synaptic integration. It is a summation of all excitatory and inhibitory signals arriving at a postsynaptic cell at the same time. The neurotransmitter must be cleared from the synapse after the signal is transmitted. Different types of neurons release different neurotransmitters. Parkinson's disease involves dopamine secreting neurons and motor control. In the picture, dopamine levels in a normal person and a Parkinson affected neuron is different. Dopamine, it is a neurotransmitter that carries signals from one cell to another. For a normal neuron, it will release a lot of dopamine to bridge the gap to another cell, which causes normal movement. But with Parkinson's, the dopamine release will be less, meaning that there will be less signals being sent through the synapse, which will not cause normal movement. Instead, you will have a movement disorder. So people with Parkinson's usually will have a blank facial expression, slurred monotonous speech, forward tilt to posture, reduced arm swinging, rigidity and tremor to extremities and head, and also a short and shuffling gait. Neuropeptides involve neuromodulators. Neuromodulators, they are chemicals that increase the signal. Neuropeptides made by some neurons that influence the effects of neurotransmitters. For example, you have substance P, it enhances the pain. Enkephalins and endorphins work as painkillers. Drugs, psychoactive drugs, would disrupt signaling by interfering with the action of neurotransmitters. Stimulants like nicotine, caffeine, cocaine, or amphetamines will increase the stimulus. Depressants like alcohol or barbiturate will lower the signaling. Analgesics like narcotics, ketamine, and PCP will work on the pain receptor, meaning that the person will not feel pain. Hallucinogens such as LSD and THC will cause hallucinations. Mechanisms of drug effects can be divided into two: agonistic or antagonistic. From this picture, agonistic drug effects, they work in prolonging or increasing the amount of neurotransmitter that crosses the bridge or the synapse. Antagonistic drug effects work in a reverse way to prevent or stop or slow down the sending of neurotransmitter through the synapse. The peripheral nervous system carry information to and from the central nervous system. Nerves are bundled axons with many neurons. Each axon is wrapped in a myelin sheath that increases transmission speed. Divisions of the peripheral nervous system has two: somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. The somatic nervous system conducts information about the environment to a central nervous system involuntarily. Voluntarily, the somatic nervous system controls skeletal muscles. For the autonomic nervous system, it conducts signals to and from the internal organs and glands. The two divisions of the autonomic nervous system have opposing effects on effectors. Sympathetic neurons are most active in the times of stress or danger, which is called the fight or flight response. Parasympathetic neurons are most active in the times of relaxation. The spinal cord. The spinal cord runs through the vertebral column and connects peripheral nerves with the brain. It serves as the reflex center. Central nervous system or CNS is the brain and the spinal cord. Protective features. The meninges are three membranes that cover and protect the CNS. They are consisting of dura mater, arachnoid mater, subarachnoid phase, and pia mater. Cerebrospinal fluid. It is a fluid that fills the central canal and spaces between meninges and cushions the blows to protect your brain. White matter and grey matter. For white matter, it is bundles of myelin sheath axons. It is found in the outermost portion of the spinal cord, but the innermost part of the brain. For grey matter, it is consisting of non-myelinated structures such as cell bodies, dendrites, and neuroglial cells. So grey matter is in the inner part of the spinal cord, but the outer part of the brain. Reflex pathways. Reflex is the autonomic response to stimulus, involving stretch reflex, knee-jerk reflex, and withdrawal reflex. Spinal reflexes do not involve the brain. Signals from the sensory neurons enter the cord through the dorsal root of spinal nerves, and commands for responses go up from the ventral root of spinal nerves. For the vertebrate brain, the brain is the body's main information integrating organ and part of the CNS. During development, the brain is organized as three functional regions: the forebrain, the midbrain, and the hindbrain. The hindbrain and the midbrain. Hindbrain includes medulla oblongata, the pons, and cerebellum. The midbrain in mammals is reduced. The brainstem, pons, medulla, and midbrain is involved in the reflex behaviors. The forebrain. Cerebrum is the main processing center in humans. It evolved as an expansion of the olfactory or smelling lobe. Thalamus and hypothalamus, they are important in thirst, temperature regulation, and other responses related to homeostasis. Protection of the blood-brain barrier. The BBB protects the CNS from the harmful substances. Tight junctions form a seal between adjoining cells of capillary walls. Some toxins such as nicotine, alcohol, caffeine, and mercury are not blocked. Cerebellum has more antineurons than other brain regions, and it is involved in balance, motor skill, and language. Cerebrum, it is divided into two hemispheres connected by signals across the corpus callosum. Each hemisphere will deal with the opposite side of the body. Some animals have it, some don't. The corpus callosum is found only in placental mammals, including the eutherians. It is absent in monotremes and marsupials, as well as other vertebrates such as birds, reptiles, amphibians, and fish. Differences in genders. Such differences were clear, but confined to certain parts of the corpus callosum. It is correlated with the cognitive performance in certain tests. One recent study using MRI found out that the mid-sagittal corpus callosum cross-section area is on average proportionally larger in females. Differences in people who are left and right-handed is 11%. It is 11% larger in people who are left-handed. The bigger the corpus callosum, the more verbal memory capacity you have and the more you perform in semantic coding tests. Children with dyslexia tend to have smaller and less developed corpus callosum than the non-dyslexic counterparts. The front portion of corpus callosum has been reported to be significantly larger in musicians than non-musicians. Musical training has shown to increase capacity of corpus callosum during a sensitive period of time in development. Children who had begun musical training before the age of 6, minimum 15 months of training, had an increased volume of corpus callosum. The human cerebrum. Each cerebral hemisphere is divided into frontal, temporal, occipital, and parietal, FTOP. The cerebral cortex is the outermost grey matter of the cerebrum. It controls voluntary activity, sensory perception, abstract thought, language, and speech. Distinct areas receive and process signals. Specific areas of the cerebral cortex respond to specific body parts or functions. First of all, is the frontal lobe. It is associated with reasoning, planning, parts of speech, movement, emotions, and problem solving. The parietal lobe is associated with movement, orientation, recognition, and perception of stimuli. Occipital lobe is associated with visual processing. Temporal lobe associated with perception and recognition of auditory stimuli, memory, and speech. Connections with the limbic system. The cerebral cortex oversees the limbic system. The limbic system is the one that governs emotions, assists in memory, correlates emotional and visceral responses. Visceral means something like internally, like a gut feeling. So some people call it the sixth sense or the third eye. Includes the hypothalamus, hippocampus, amygdala, and cingulate gyrus. Making memories. So the cerebral cortex receives information and processes some of it into memory. Memory forms in stages. Short-term memory lasts seconds to hours. Long-term memory is stored permanently. Skill memory involves the cerebellum. Declarative memory stores facts and impressions. 5 of the best brain foods. Oily fish. Fish such as salmon, mackerel, herrings, sardines are all rich in omega-3. Omega-3 is essential for the development of brain tissue. Blueberries, it is high in antioxidants and a rich source of vitamin C. It can be guarding against short-term memory loss. It can also aid in coordination and balance amongst other things. Pumpkin seeds are also rich in omega-3 and zinc. They have maintained part of the brain that keeps sensory function intact. Chocolates are good because of the antioxidants. Antioxidants will be able to improve your memory, while some of the milk chocolate can improve motor functions and reaction time. Avocado, it is often avoided because it is felt that they are having a lot of high fat and high cholesterol. Despite that, they are essential to keep the mind alert and focused to concentrate on tasks of the day. Split brain. An investigation by Roger Sperry into the importance of information flow between the cerebral hemispheres show that the two halves of the brain have a division of labor. Typically, the math and language skills reside in the left hemisphere, while the right hemisphere interprets music, spatial relationships, and visual inputs. Split brain is the result when corpus callosum connecting the two brains are severed to some degree. It is an association of symptoms produced by disruption of interference with the connection between the hemisphere of the brain. The surgical operation to produce this condition is called corpus callosomy, involves the transaction of corpus callosum. It is usually used as a last resort to treat refractory epilepsy. After the right and left brain are separated, each hemisphere will have its own separate perception, concepts, and impulses to act. Having two brains in one body can create some interesting dilemmas. Scientists have often wondered whether split brain patients who have had the two hemispheres of the brain surgically disconnected are of two minds, according to Zimmer 2001. When one split brain patient dressed himself, he sometimes put his pants up with one hand, which is the side of the brain that wanted to get dressed, and down with the other, the side didn't. Also, once he grabbed his wife with his left hand and shook her violently. So his right hand came to her aid and grabbed the aggressive left hand. However, such conflicts are actually rare. If conflict arises, one hemisphere usually overrides the other. When split brain patients are shown an image only in one of their visual field, such as the left, they cannot vocally name what they have seen, because the image seen in the left visual field is sent only to the right side of the brain. The right side of the brain is not responsible for speech control. Due to communication between of the two sides inhibited, meaning that the right part of the brain cannot actually tell what it is. It knows what it is, but it is unable to tell it because the association between words and things are handled by your left brain. So to actually show the names or to actually identify the object, the image must be also presented to the other part of the brain, which is the right part of the eye. The right part of the right eye will send signals to the left brain, where it will tie up the visual with the words. The same effect occurs for visual pairs and reasoning. For example, a patient with split brain is shown a picture of a chicken and snowy field in separate visual fields and asked to choose from a list of words the best association with the pictures. The patient would choose a chicken food to associate with chicken and a shovel to associate with snow. However, when asked the reason why the patient chose shovel, the shovel, the response would relate to the chicken, e.g., the shovel is for cleaning out the chicken coop. Neuroglia. Neuroglia is the neuron support staff, and they make up the bulk of the brain. The adult brain would have 4 types of neuroglia cells. Oligodendrocytes make myelin. Microglia have immune system functions. Astrocytes secrete various substances, take out neurotransmitters, assist immune defenses, and stimulate formation of the blood-brain barrier. Ependymal cell line brain cavities. About brain tumors. Unlike neurons, neuroglia continue to divide in adults and can be a source of primary brain tumors. Exposure to ionizing radiation such as X-rays or to chemical carcinogens increases risk. The end.